Good morning. It's 9 a.m. It's June 11th. It's 2024. Doesn't that sound a bit like the future? We've gathered to talk and discuss infrastructure today, which is quite an unusual topic for an organization like us and an organization that for a long time has been looking into creative industries and media and so on. But I think it's interesting to see how both we and sort of the professional community of Malmo has merged and converged over the past 20 years. And when we look back to the seminars and conferences that we've produced over the years, it's clear to see that if we, back then looked at social media or digital media, social media, digitization, and now there is a very strong sort of interest in systems and how that sort of digital worlds of systems connect with real world systems, so to speak. And that's of course due to the fact of the multiple crises that we're experiencing in like core infrastructure, like climate, like democracy, like transportation, and so on. And if we hadn't felt it before, we felt it during the pandemic, where we really sort of, we're connected and we're interconnected and we're interdependent with a lot of different communities around the world and different peoples around the world. And so the topic of today is how will we design, maintain digital, hard, soft, green infrastructures in southern Sweden in 2050? And so that begs the question, what is infrastructure? And I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, but we've been conducting a collaborative foresight process during the past months involving lots of people from our community, and these are some of the definitions that we've used for what infrastructure is. And Debbie Chakra is a scholar who spoke at the conference last year, and she also has a book on how infrastructure works. It's in our library, and that's by the entrance. And there's also a pop-out library that you can find in the back of the room. So her book is there if you want to look into it further. And I'm also going to say she's going to come back to Malmo in the fall. And she's going to host a class and a lecture. So you'll hear more about that. And the way she describes infrastructure is all the stuff you didn't think about. And you might want to add, and this was very much sort of something that was discussed in this collaborative foresight, all the stuff you don't think about until they fail us. Or all the stuff you should think about, but do not currently think about. And then this interconnectedness. So how all of the different kinds of infrastructure in our lives connect, and it's been a very important, part of our process to really have this quite broad perspective of infrastructure and not only think about, the roads that are or bridges that are, what we would draw as infrastructure if you ask the kid. But also the digital and green and also the soft infrastructures of society when it comes to people's relationship with each other. And I very much and I come to the topic of infrastructure from an interest in maintenance. I mean, again, the past 20 years has been decades of such focus on innovation. New gets all of the attention. I remember reading a historian way back who claimed that 80% of the technology that we use is old. And the American technologist and writer Kevin Kelly has a fantastic saying, I think, that all things need additional energy to be sustained. So everything around us will break if there's not somebody or something that cares about it. And he uses the example of code, and I'm not a developer, so I think it's like such a weird thing that even code needs care to keep working. But that's apparently true. Matthias, developer, is that true? Yes? Yeah. Okay, a week. Good. Another infrastructure that needs care, the European Union. Wasn't it a fantastic day, Sunday? For some reason, I felt like warmer than usual on election day, and it felt more important than in a long while to vote. And this European project of ours that are, plenty of reasons to critique, but it's also, a quite beautiful idea of sort of staying together, and let's hope that forces that want to sort of shut the rest of the world out, that they will not have as much power as they want in the coming 5 years. But we are at least happy that we are part of a project called Digithub that is semi-funded by the European Union, and it's called Digithub. And there's lots of interesting tools, test beds, and events and so on connected to this. It's a big consortium of 20 to 30 organizations across southern Sweden. So check that out at digithub.se, and this collaborative foresight cycle is a part of that project. So what is a collaborative foresight cycle then? So it's our way of engaging people in topics that we and the community think are interesting. And it's based on the idea that, Media Evolution is a members organization. So 180 organizations are members in Media Evolution. And in all of these companies and all of the companies that are not members, there's thousands of people. So there's thousands of people that are professionally engaged in topics that we can benefit from each other's knowledge. And so the idea is to bring people together from different industries in a bespoke process. And sort of the core of it is the red circles here. So we recruit a core group of 20 people, make sure that these 20 people come from different backgrounds. There is an open application and so on. And for 4 days, this group works with signals, possible futures, scenario building, looking into desirable futures and alternative futures. And under the lead of my colleague Reta, who couldn't be here today, she's in Munich to present this work. Very proud colleague I am. And from that comes, scenarios, and I will share some super small stuff about the scenarios from this current cycle, and there will also be a book. And this is the 7th collaborative foresight cycle that we're conducting, and the books from previous ones is by the front desk if you want a copy. The book will be released at the conference, and there will also be breakfast and croissant event and so on for those who want to pick up a copy. Who in the audience has been a part of this collaborative foresight cycle? 1, 2, 3. So if you want to sort of learn more about that, how that was, you can talk to these people. And we also do these open workshops where we invite people that might not, for some reason, have 4 days to spend, but still want to contribute with a 3 hour. There's an open workshop in the beginning for signal scanning, and then there's one in the middle for community critique, where people can sort of look at what the core group has done and offer some feedback. Seminar and book, that's where we are now. And in our work with foresight, or in our work with collaborative foresight, we utilize 3 principles that I think are relevant also for when you're not in a core group like that. And the first one is to acknowledge that the future comes in many ways. The future is plural. And it's conceived differently for different people and in different parts of the world. And that's also, opens up the possibility to imagine. We don't have to do forecasts. We can imagine a future like that. We can imagine a future like this, and so on. Because futures are very much imagined, and they are dreamt up by people. And so we also have an obligation and a right to think about what futures we want and what future we see as desirable. There is a book in the library by a British author called Jeff Mulgan who claims that we're currently also facing an imaginary crisis. So it's not only the democracy and and the climate that is in crisis, also our capability of imagine what we would like to have and what futures we want to live in. And I think that's, if true, it's a big problem, and it's also a big reason for why we're doing this work. And then after the future is imagined, there's also needs to be people to create and build that future. All right, so I'm going to tease you a little bit about the 4 futures that the core group conceived this year, and they're very much teases. So the group 1 had a great copywriter. So there's a yabba dabba do economics future, thriving in a post-resource world. And so this is sort of back to the Flintstones. I think that's the yabba dabba do reference. And so in year 2050, the world is in a critical juncture where all its resources have been depleted. However, in a stroke of innovative governance, the government of Sweden has orchestrated an ideal environment in the southern region of the country that fosters harmonious and happy living for all its citizens. So and then there's future 2, the protective automation. So in 2050 in southern Sweden, and as you can see, and as you can hear, all the futures are situated in southern Sweden. That's, if you'd ask Greta, an important aspect of when we're thinking about the future, not to sort of go too broad, but always try to sort of situate them in a locality. So in 2050 in southern Sweden, there's been a progression towards machines in power. A speedy technological development led to powerful artificial generative intelligence that could empower local decision makers. There was a false sense of security and convenience, meaning that laziness, or in other words, laziness, that gave power to the machines. How could that be for infrastructure? And then the third one, global cooperation in the name of sustainability. A powerful global government has formed and is reorganizing and re-regulating the economy as a circular system with a focus on sharing of resources globally and degrowth. Future 4, Punk 2.0. In 2050 in southern Sweden, we live in a society of enhanced self-governance and multidimensional growth. Our world is cooperatively populated by caretakers, users, providers, decision makers, enablers, all roles represented in each and every citizen. For the first time, I have a feeling that this core group of 20 people got a little bit of utopian. They all seems to be, yeah, maybe except for future 2, with sort of the AI has taken over when we didn't realize it. But the past collaborative forces has been very sort of dystopic. So I sense a shift. So let's hope for a little bit more positive, desirable futures going forward.